Now, he was once the most high-profile Russian oligarch in Britain, the billionaire tycoon owner of one of the most famous sporting names in the world. When he bought Chelsea Football Club in 2003, Roman Abramovich became an international celebrity. Super yachts, private jets, sprawling mansions. But where did all this wealth come from? Despite widely reported links between Abramovich and the Russian President Vladimir Putin, many in the West showed little interest in knowing anything, so long as they benefited from the cash. Now, Abramovich's capital was more than welcome here in the UK until, of course, the brutal invasion of Ukraine popped his beautiful billionaire's bubble for good. Suddenly facing asset seizures and sanctions, it was made abundantly clear that Abramovich's ownership of his prized Chelsea Football Club was over. He did try to keep hold of it, but eventually was forced to sell the club in May 2022 for some 4.2 billion quid, and was only allowed to do so because he was under sanctions at the time as a pro-Kremlin oligarch, on the condition that the net proceeds of £2.5 billion would be spent on helping victims of the Ukraine war. But the money has not been spent. It's frozen, while Abramovich and the British government argue over what it can be used on. So let's talk about what you can buy for that price, the price of a football club, essentially. If you're in the arms business, you could buy 10 of our new warships. If you're a teacher, it could pay for 71 new state-of-the-art secondary schools. And if you're in Ukraine, it could go somewhere to helping the 14.6 million citizens needing aid, and maybe a few of the 5.9 million Ukrainians scattered around Europe as refugees too. It's that last one that the money is actually earmarked for, all the victims of the war in Ukraine via a foundation fund. And it was supposed to be the biggest non-governmental aid package Europe's ever seen. Problem is, 2 years of war have passed and nada so far. So for more on this, let's go to speak to Ukrainian MP Kira Rudik. Thank you very much for joining us. And just give us a sense of what these funds could do for the people of Ukraine.
Hello, Roseanne. Thank you so much for having me. Well, we indeed need those funds. And as of right now, the total losses and the need for rebuild for our country already reached 500 billion. And so we need every penny and every dime to cover for the expenses. And these expenses, they grow every single day because Russia does not stop its attack. On January 2nd, there was an attack and a missile hit near where I live. And so my windows were ripped out of the frames and thrown in the middle of the room. And it was one of the most terrifying experiences. And you know, Roseanne, I can pay for my windows, but so many of my neighbors cannot. And some people lost their homes and their loved ones at that attack. And we are just talking about one incident. So we need to gather all the funds, and especially Russian frozen funds throughout the world, both Russian state funds and oligarch money. And in total, the calculations are that, that the states have frozen about 500 billion. Right now, it's like approximately exact amount that we calculated that we would need for the rebuild.
I mean, thank you for painting the picture there, reminding our viewers why this type of money is so desperately needed. In terms of where the money has come from, it's oligarch money, basically at some point siphoned out of business deals with the Kremlin and from Putin. How do you feel about that? Does that give it an added meaning?
Absolutely. It's only just. Roseanne, we have seen throughout those 2 years how people from all over the world, including United Kingdom, are supporting us with donations, with financial aid, humanitarian aid. And that is great. But for how long people of the free countries are supposed to be paying for what Putin destroyed? It's absolutely unfair, and it is also unfair to all the good people out there. So we need to go forward and make sure that Putin is paying for what he broke, and that 500 billion of frozen Russian assets are being seized and used for the sake of Ukraine, because it is the right thing to do. It is just, and this is how we would show the precedent to all other dictatorships in the world, that if you start a full-scale invasion, your money will be gone.
Now, in terms of the politics of funding, sending funds to Ukraine, you're well aware of this. I know that you know, when we have elections in the UK coming up this year, there's elections in the US, when we've had various elections around Europe, there is always a big debate about how much funding goes to Ukraine. Talk to us about what it feels like to see that support kind of wavering sometimes, or to see people debating against sending funding to Ukraine.
It is incredibly painful because, here we feel that we are protecting the whole democratic world. We are protecting Europe, and we know that Putin would not stop unless he is stopped. And this is what we are doing here. And it is also incredibly hard to explain to our soldiers who are bravely fighting at the front what's going on and what the delay is about, because we have heard the promises to stay with Ukraine for as long as it takes. And right now there is this significant delay. We are short of ammunition, and we are feeling this shortage every single day. And our soldiers are struggling, and they're just waiting for this help to arrive. And it is very hard to say that you don't know when it's going to arrive, and if it's going to arrive like anytime soon. And they are looking at you for some hope, and you don't know if you can give them that hope. This is why we really hope that the politicians in the democratic countries will do the right thing, because this question is bigger than Ukraine. It's a question of the security of Europe, of the security of the democratic world. And no matter how elections go, Russia would not disappear. They would not, change their mind and just go back. We will have to fight them, and we will have to do that together. So we are calling for all good people to keep their focus on what is going on in Ukraine and get us the help that we desperately need.
Ukrainian MP Kira Rudik, thank you very much for making time and in putting that position to our viewers this evening.
Thank you, and glory to Ukraine.